With over 2 years remaining until the 2027 general elections, political activities are ramping up across Nigeria. Governors are switching parties, an influx of political endorsements is occurring, and campaign-like efforts are escalating, all of which visibly contravenes Section 99 of the Electoral Act, which states that the period of campaigning in public by every political party shall commence 150 days before polling day and to end 24 hours prior to that day. This regulation exists to protect electoral integrity, prevent abuses of state power, and ensure elected leaders concentrate on governance rather than engaging in political maneuvering until official campaign phase begins. Yet, this statute is being openly disregarded. Recently, a governor in Anambra State, a state grappling with insecurity and recovering from violent disturbances, publicly endorsed the president for re-election in 2027. In Delta State, another governor transitioned to the ruling party, claiming it was a strategic choice to align with Abuja, a clear indication of political realignment ahead of the upcoming election. Meanwhile, the ruling party has started rallying endorsements for the president, effectively initiating unauthorized campaigning. Where is INEC? Where is the law? Where is accountability? In a concerning context, 11,000 Nigerians lost their lives to escalating violence, terrorism, and banditry in 2024 alone. The Northwest and Northeast regions were particularly affected, with countless innocent lives lost. However, rather than holding urgent discussions on security, governors are engaging in political strategy planning. Instead of focusing on community rebuilding, we are hearing campaign slogans. This scenario presents not only a legal violation, but also a moral dilemma. When leaders disregard Section 99, they are not only breaking the law, they are conveying to Nigerians that power takes precedence over peace and that elections are prioritized above human lives. Section 99 is not merely a suggestion, it is a legal obligation. Every politician who flouts this law undermines the rule of law and the rights of citizens they claim to serve. Where regulations are ignored and power takes precedence over the populace, the 2027 election may yield favorable results for some, but at what cost exactly?
So you bring up a very important conversation about electoral reform and the realities that we face with the choice of the electoral structure that we have. So we have this structure where you have to have elections every 4 years. So I am not necessarily very much, concerned about the behavior of politicians. I mean, they are politicians. That's what they do. They will politic for elections. I'm concerned about how much we don't value the law as it is, which is where, I align exactly what you are saying. You are bringing a particular part of the Electoral Act to which they are not adhering to. But when you look at that act itself, there's so many parts of it that they don't even respect. There was a time I took on this topic of campaign financing.
That's right.
Okay, about how almost all the provisions of campaign financing, as to the reporting requirements, as to the amount each individual can raise and spend, and all those things, they don't even comply, as even to the extent of what they are required to do in terms of publishing their annual reports and all that in a newspaper and on their website. As we speak today, none of the parties have done it. INEC, who is the custodian of the Electoral Act, will still list them for the same elections because we don't respect laws. So we either have to be serious as a country to say that we want to obey the laws, or we want to be a country for a kangaroo jungle country where nobody respects the law.
INEC is responsible for enforcing these laws. Because the average Nigerian is not going to go out there and be like, oh, why are you campaigning? Why are you doing all these things? So it means that INEC has failed in their duties, which is a duty of care to Nigerians. Because right now we're all like, it's like la la land. Anything goes. Anybody can just show up and start talking, despite the fact that you're actually violating a section of our law. So I feel like INEC should be coming out and making an example of those people that are blatantly flouting the laws.
All right.
I think more thoughts needs to be given into the law-making process. And if you look at Nigeria as in general, we have fantastic laws, but the problem is implementation. So my advice to the lawmakers is in your lawmaking processes, please make laws that are enforceable, that are clearly written and are realistic. Like the campaign funding, the idea and the spirit behind it is fantastic. It shows transparency. Publishing I mean, that's what modern democracies do. But in Nigeria, they don't enforce it, and it makes a mockery of the law and the whole process in the first place. So my point will be, look, if you're going to make laws, please make sure they're realistic. And I'm glad the National Assembly has thrown away that bill that wanted to criminalize not voting.
Yeah.
Yes, because you're going to pull all of us.
There's
I'm
no
sure
point.
some of us on this table would end up going to jail if you make voting compulsory. So in the spirit of it, they should make laws that are enforceable and realistic. And also, you hope that political parties will obey this. But what we tend to do is, if Mr. A and B doesn't obey, why should I comply? Yes. Until an example, we need to stop this culture of impunity.
And it tells us the quality of politicians we now have is so markedly different from the ones who were our founding fathers. The people, and they say, is
Our
what does it call it now? Heroes past. And these heroes past, you know. Nowadays, it's survival of the politician rather than the survival of the country. That's one. Secondly, you talked about the unauthorized campaigns. Again, we're doing what we ought to do here. And that's rerouting everybody to say, look, there is a section in the Constitution that says this is not right. But then they will argue with you that, no, we're not campaigning, we're just decamping.
And then, in fairness to them, the APC actually came out and said, look, these billboards you see, it's not us. It's not official policy.
So there should be...
It's the fans that are doing it for us.
So that's number two. Number three, when you look at community building against campaign slogans, you begin to ask, and that brings me, yes, before I forget, that brings me to the number of years we ask our legislators, our governors, the executive, the many years they're spending. As it is, they spend 2 years working. The next 2 years is politics, they're campaigning. So why don't we just move it to 6 years? So they still give us 4 years.
One term.
And then spend one term, 6 years. That's always been my position. Because if we have 6 years, they spend 4 years and we dash them the next 2 years. It is not the ideal, but at least they will spend 4 years rebuilding before they start thinking of campaigning.
Show me your priorities and I will show you what your value. It isn't rocket science.
Which is why we must continue to insist that we prioritize menstrual health as a way of communicating our value for half the population.